Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Intelligent Payer Cloud Acceleration in a Post-COVID World. Before we get started, I'd like to review a few housekeeping details. Today's webinar is being recorded and an online archive of today's event will be available a few days after the session. If you have trouble seeing the slides at any time during the presentation, please press F5 to refresh your screen on your PC or Command R if you're using a Mac. You may ask a question at any time during the presentation by typing your question into the Q&A box located on the right side of your screen and pressing Enter. And finally, I'd like to remind you of AHIP's antitrust statement located in the handout section at the bottom of your screen. We will, as always, comply with that statement. Among other things, the antitrust statement prohibits us from discussing competitively sensitive information. We're very fortunate to have with us today Dr. Oleg Kucheryavenko and Mr. Braden Hickey. Dr. Kucheryavenko is the Global Lead for Health Technology Strategy and Advisory at Accenture Cloud First and a physician executive who helps clients transform the healthcare enterprise and create new revenue streams through innovation, improved productivity, and agility enabled by the cloud. Braden is manager in Accenture's Health Technology Strategy and Advisory practice with 8 years of experience working at the intersection of business, technology, and healthcare for larger payer clients. At this time, I would like to turn the floor over to our speakers. Welcome.
Thank you, Monica. Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today to talk about accelerating your cloud journey at scale. Today, we want to give you some grounding on the state of cloud in healthcare, and then jump into some priorities driving change across every healthcare organization, along with some approaches to entering the public cloud landscape in order to enable those changes. I'll then hand it to my colleague, Oleg, who will walk us through the value of cloud to each stakeholder across the C-suite, venturing outside of the traditional IT value story of the CIO. And we'll also jump into the importance of identifying and implementing the right cloud strategy for your organization, as well as provide some guidance on how payers can move from vision to realizing value in their public cloud journey. And so we'll also be taking questions throughout, and we'll conduct a couple polls. So please submit some questions through the chat, and we'll try to answer them as best we can throughout. And so before I do go any further, I just wanted to take a step back and look at the state of cloud in healthcare today, right? So cloud is not new in health. And 2 years ago, organizations were experimenting in the public cloud. They may have used it, for some backup storage or spun up a test environment for an application, or some smaller pilot use case. But now the conversation and focus is shifting into bigger thinking, right? So organizations are looking at migrating legacy technology into the cloud and transforming data and applications and taking advantage of those capabilities that aren't available in their existing infrastructure. And yet, as I sit here and talk about, and we'll continue to talk through what organizations want to do in the cloud, only half of healthcare organizations have a mature cloud practice with governance and tools in place. But even with the immature cloud governance as a whole, the impact of cloud, right, can easily be seen as a wildly disruptive force in the health industry. And we've really seen that been put on display throughout 2020 and into 2021, right? As we continue to see the proliferation of health tech startups, all backed with cloud-enabled solutions. And on top of that, we have Microsoft, Amazon, and Google, the 3 major cloud service providers. They've been investing, a lot of their attention, focus, and dollars into the healthcare space, partnering with payers and really driving innovation. And so we can't talk about disruptors in healthcare without adding in the backdrop of COVID-19, right? There's nothing quite like the impact of COVID-19, and the pandemic has really exposed the vulnerabilities across healthcare organizations and has greatly accelerated the rate of change. So all these things have been putting pressure on the industry. And so what we want to do is get into talking about, the priorities that these forces are shaping across the health industry today. But before we do that, let's jump into our first of two polls. So just a quick housekeeping item. In order to answer the poll, you will need to exit full screen mode, and you will be able to answer more than one option. Okay, so given the acceleration in the rate of change from the COVID-19 pandemic, what are the top drivers for your business's journey to cloud? And the options are evolve care models, consumer engagement, contain costs, fuel growth, improve analytics capabilities, address strategic staffing priorities, or other. And again, the question is, given the acceleration in the rate of change from the COVID-19 pandemic, what are the top drivers for your business's journey to cloud? And so we have, asked this around to clients, over the past year. It's been interesting to see how the responses have, run from evolve care models into, improving analytics capabilities in my experience. So we'll see, what comes back from the group here today. Okay, so what we see coming through evolve care models, consumer engagement, cost containment are top three, followed by fueling growth and improving analytics capabilities. So we'll look to touch on those and hopefully gain some more clarity behind how to implement and scale. All right. So moving on, and as previously mentioned, COVID-19 really tested the organizations across their enterprise, and it brought key business initiatives into focus. Right. Over the past year, the pandemic really stretched the limits of payer operations. It, reframed how patients and clinicians interacted, and out of necessity spurred the rapid adoption of telehealth and remote work. And so while every healthcare organization was impacted in a unique way, there are fundamental priorities that have been pushed to the forefront that all healthcare organizations should address in order to succeed. Right, so, and let's start with virtual care. The pandemic has brought virtual care front and center for every healthcare organization, both large and small. Remote care offerings and partnerships with remote care players really became a necessity, seemingly overnight. And we have seen some interesting use cases play out on a national stage. One, for example, is the Aura Ring, right, which was used by the NBA when they returned to playoffs in the NBA bubble in 2020. And the Aura Ring was used to identify potential COVID symptoms before they became, noticed by the individual themselves. And so this was a great example of remote monitoring enabled by the power of cloud. Next up is consumer engagement, was a high one on the list. So thanks to increased digital adoption across all industries, consumers now expect their healthcare to work at the speed and convenience of their online shopping and other digital experiences. So finding a doctor should now be as easy as placing an order through Uber Eats. In addition, we continue to see new business models showing themselves, either through partnerships with industry disruptors that will continue to fuel growth, or whether it's the continuous shift to value-based care, which is requiring payers to keep costs contained while driving improved outcomes for their membership base. And then there's the investment in data and technology. And I think this one really underpins the first three that we just touched on. Whether it be personalized experiences or digital products, those things are going to bolster the need for a secure and data-driven enterprise. And just as an example of this, one of our health clients has recently started a migration of their analytics capabilities to Google's cloud data warehouse, which is named BigQuery. And they're doing so to really power their business vision with a strong analytics foundation. And their current on-premise infrastructure has proven incapable of delivering. So in a recent exercise where they were ingesting image files and translating those into text, they found that their runtime, was turning out to be weeks instead of the what was assumed to be hours. And they couldn't easily scale up their compute resources to improve their time to value like they could have if they were operating in a cloud environment. So to them, it became clear that choosing a cloud provider for their analytics platform could enable those timely insights and would allow them to leverage capabilities like AI and machine learning that require vast amounts of data from various sources and scaled compute power to execute effectively. And those things just weren't feasible in an on-premise environment. And then lastly, we see that payers are looking to address staffing shortages while attracting top talent, and looking to do this through the use of new and cutting-edge technologies, and cloud-based solutions. So when you look at all 5 of these business initiatives, cloud is the one common denominator tying them all together. For the how for achieving. Every one of them, is powered through cloud-enabled technologies, and over the next 3 to 5 years, we will continue to see healthcare organizations embrace hybrid cloud solutions or fully public cloud solutions to enable these key priorities. So let's look into how organizations can approach transition into the public cloud. So depending on where your organization is on their cloud journey, you may be asking, how do I go about scaling? Or simply, what is the right approach to move from a traditional on-premise data center and into a cloud environment? And so I'd like to speak what we've seen from our clients in this space. And what we have seen taking place is that as organizations start out on their cloud journey, most have and will continue to initially land on a hybrid cloud strategy. This is where your applications and data workloads are balanced across both public cloud and private cloud, or your on-premise infrastructure. And to organizations, this is what they really feel gives them a best of both worlds approach. Right? You get your low latency for some workloads that live on premise, while simultaneously expanding into the public cloud, which gives you the opportunity to innovate at scale and take advantage of those analytics capabilities, AI, machine learning, as we had mentioned, all available in the public cloud. Right. So we want to think of the hybrid cloud as you combine the public cloud benefits of innovation and speed with the private cloud benefits of compliance and performance. But the benefits of public cloud don't just stop at innovation and speed, right? It's not just the sole reasons to go public cloud. across all three major cloud service providers, they're intently focused on the health industry. And just as an example, we can use Amazon Web Services, right? They had nearly 1/3 of market share in public cloud in the fourth quarter of 2020. They have and continue to make health-related acquisitions. They support over 100 HIPAA-eligible services and spent over $37 billion in R&D just in the past year. So as you can see, by investing in public cloud, you're also investing in a partner who's dedicating a ton of their resources to the healthcare industry. So now I'll hand it over to Oleg to take us through the value of cloud, not just to the CIO, but across the C-suite.
Thank you, Braden. Healthcare executives most frequently cite the ability to launch applications faster, better security, and greater agility as the top benefits of cloud. This top spot used to be filled by executives drive for cost savings. So the fact that cost topped this same list in last year's survey, but has fallen in priority, reveals just how quickly healthcare executives' views of cloud have shifted from a transactional, traditional to a very strategic lens. So when I talk to clients, I emphasize that the way we think about cloud is very different today from the way we used to think about cloud 3 to 5 years ago. Depending on your role within the organization, different tranches of value provided by cloud would matter to you to a different extent. So in healthcare, in particular, every C-suite leader has a vested interest in cloud and modern technologies. They are each looking for a specific kind of new value, and a different value case resonates with each one. So the first tranche of value is related to modernizing IT and considering data center exit in the favor of automation, optimized labor, and operating costs within the IT department. And chief information officers and SVPs of IT often speak about improved business resiliency and responsiveness of business-critical systems as a driver for their technology modernization. Chief financial officers look to cloud to limit large capital investments and reduce these investments into hardware that quickly becomes obsolete. And they recognize opportunities to use shared services platforms and to reduce shadow IT, which is very common in many payer organizations and integrated healthcare systems that I work with. The second tranche of value is one that yields sizable savings, and in fact is favored by many of our clients as the one to focus special attention on. It is business efficiencies enabled by cloud technologies. Our payer clients pursue automation of patient engagement through digital platforms, move to cloud-based call and contact centers. They take advantage of greater customer insight to optimize sales and pricing. And in a recent conversation with an operations and clinical executive, I learned they look to cloud to contribute to the integration of business strategy with their operations, create new incentive programs and patient interaction pathways that consider social determinants of health. And these are business problems related to patient health and financial health of the business. And who could think just a few years ago that cloud technologies would provide a very nimble and efficient platform to try solve for this. And finally, the third tranche of value is related to new growth through new business models and new products. And CEOs that we work with look for cloud to help turn investments into operations and innovation into new revenue streams. This could mean partnering across the ecosystem to orchestrate the development of research, new products, new services, thinking strategically about expanding into new markets. Many chief digital officers, as you know, were appointed in the past couple years. And this reflects the importance of this digital pivot as they look for cloud to accelerate time to market for new digital capabilities. And this could mean brokering and testing new ways of operating and innovating. launching an organization on a digital trajectory to improve experience and create new data-driven products. So all of this momentum, this buzz from executives and cloud service providers signals just how strong the value story is for the journey to cloud in healthcare industry. And cloud is the means to the end for healthcare organizations to improve operations, clinical research, care delivery, because it grounds the business in agility, collaboration, and insight-based action. And these are transformational improvements for the entire healthcare ecosystem. And with the right cloud strategy and right investments, payer, provider, and research organizations and new market entrants in the healthcare payer space can evolve their roles, the value propositions, and the business models and partnerships to improve coordination of healthcare process, care delivery, and as a result, patient health outcomes. And I always like to tell the story of a client that is very much interested in working together with providers and pharmaceutical companies and medical device companies to ensure the care pathway is streamlined and effective, and costs of care delivery are optimized for oncology patients. So they operate as a conglomerate of 12 different divisions that all work in silos. Business executives were debating how to bring together all parts of the business together to ensure that a patient's journey is very simple and effective. So the conversation was very natural. Look, the value chain has many distinct components, all of which have to be brought onto a single platform. And each step of the way is characterized by a unique set of new technologies that would power your future platform. So you would have to have a platform that has 5 key elements: connectivity to connect stakeholders along the value chain, data cleansing plane so that you can process data coming in different formats of different quality, data storage, and you will need services that manage your Internet of Things devices or wearables deployed in the field, and secure communication back with the data cleansing layer in the cloud platform. And finally, only in the cloud you have access to cognitive services that are rapidly deployable and infinitely scalable. They will live on top of this cloud platform, so now you will be able to make sense of the incoming data and generate meaningful insights real time. So this conversation was to some extent eye-opening for the executive team, and the solution is so simple and accessible to any payer, any provider, or any other healthcare business. Cloud allows you to assemble these platforms from a myriad of services that can be connected together, and they scale vertically and horizontally as needed. And you pay only for the services you consume and not for the hardware that is hardly utilized in a data center. But however powerful this story may be, many organizations face some challenges and don't always know how to get started. Braden, let's run the next poll.
Sure thing. So just as a reminder, please exit full screen mode to answer the poll, and you can choose more than one option. So what is your organization's greatest barrier to getting started on your accelerated cloud journey? Organizing your organization around cloud, driving change quickly despite legacy systems and tech debt. And how do we articulate the value to stakeholders outside of the CIO? Again, and the question is, what is your organization's greatest barrier to getting started on your accelerated cloud journey?
And while our audience is responding to this poll, I want to note that strategists, managers, and academics have studied change for over 3 decades, and all agree that transforming organizations is very difficult. And in fact, Harvard Business Review published recently that managing change is tough, but part of the problem is there is very little agreement on what factors most influence transformation initiatives. And in my view, the cloud transformations are no exception. So let's take a look at the results. So 43% responded that organizing the greatest barrier to getting started on the cloud journey is organizing the organization around cloud. This corresponds to what we see in our communications and conversations in our work with the clients. So let's talk a bit about this. There's a big difference between aspiring about cloud and enacting a cloud strategy. So what do healthcare payers need to do to achieve success and drive cloud at scale within their organization? When I talk to my clients, I suggest that executives start by asking three key questions. One is, how do we organize around cloud? A new cloud operating model is required. It's necessary to drive collaboration across various IT and business domains that have historically been very siloed. And without the right level of senior cross-functional engagement, organizations cannot realize the full potential of cloud technologies and will struggle to drive change. Given the regulatory, legal, and contractual commitments that healthcare organizations face related to protecting patient health information, personally identifiable information, aligning these teams and building a common understanding of the need to protect and secure data in the cloud in line with the regulations is key to success. Also, it is important to understand that we have to operate in a very agile environment once we go to cloud. It's important to make your developers able to consume the cloud without interfacing with IT and to innovate using the latest cloud-native capabilities. Similarly, production applications, for example, still need the robust process and stability that a robust managed service comes with. And we need to think about skills. Skills have to be thought about, they have to be addressed, as they have to change and evolve over time at the speed of your development in the cloud. The second question that I urge executives to ask is, how do we drive change quickly? So while modernizing the traditional IT in a data center may be costly and highly complex, healthcare organizations do not have to be overwhelmed by tackling this challenge. And a more reasonable approach is to focus on modernizing key capabilities that drive the experiences that are priorities for the reinvention of your business. And there is no need to do it all at once. Healthcare organizations can decouple these priority capabilities from the legacy systems. For example, claims, benefits. In healthcare providers, we see this with electronic health record systems to enable easier access to that data to drive insights and new digital experiences. And companies should never fund large multi-year modernization programs without significant interim milestones. In fact, it is a new trend to investigate the options for cloud immediately before making any further capital investments in technology. And the third question, and the final point that I want to make before we move to Q&A session is, how do we need to think about value to stakeholders? Today, according to Accenture research, only about 18% of healthcare IT leaders have engaged non-IT business executives on cloud topics and cloud transformation, or involved them in cloud strategy discussions. And this must change. As healthcare organizations aggressively pursue their cloud strategies, it is critical to engage leaders beyond traditional technology and IT executives to sponsor this business transformation. And after all, the buyer is no longer the CIO or an infrastructure leader. And the business case is not just about cost. It is about the business value and the business growth for the healthcare payer business. Now let's move to the Q&A session.
Thank you. At this time, we are going to address some questions that have come in during the presentation. As a reminder, you can ask your question by typing your question into the Q&A box on the right-hand side of your screen and clicking Enter. And I'll turn it back over to our speakers to address any questions. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Monica. And just scanning through some of the questions, it looks like one that may have come in while we were talking through the business priorities. So I'll read it out loud and I'll try to give it an answer, and then Oleg, please feel free to fill in any blanks. So this question reads, our IT organization is very traditional, and some people are not ready to explore cloud seriously. However, we as business executives are very much in need of being able to do advanced data analytics and are thinking of creating digital products. How do your clients bridge this gap? And so I'll try to answer this in two parts. And first, as a leadership team, it's best to commit to a vision to become an AI-driven organization. And it seems that the business executives in your organization are, almost there. But you want to commit to use of a public cloud as your preferred platform for analytics and data sharing and collaboration, right? And while there could be reluctance in the organization, moving sooner allows for earlier realization of and benefit from the analytical tools. And something we consistently hear from leaders in cloud technology is to be bold and go all in. So the sooner you can break through that reluctance, the better. And then to support the vision to become an AI-driven organization, you'd want to design a business case and strategy. Right? You want to be able to communicate across your leadership team and into, into IT, if they're more traditional, that the future of improved operations, revenue generation, growth, and better health outcomes all lie within an effective cloud-based strategy and cloud-based analytics. And our experiences do tend to show that an effective cloud strategy doesn't always mean jumping right into full public cloud. It does support temporary coexistence of on-premise and public cloud, that hybrid environment. So it's not like a move to cloud means moving everything at once. I hope that helps clarify your question.
Thank you, Braden. And I see we have another question. We've heard that by going to cloud, there is an opportunity to save money, but I also heard from colleagues that they ended up paying more after they moved their data center environment to the cloud. How would you explain that? That is a very good question, and I get asked this question every day. So when you move to cloud, you will have to run differently. And the key concept you will need to learn quickly once you get into the public cloud is cloud optimization. With cloud services that you can consume very easily comes the constraint that you have to optimize it. And we'll look at optimization across three key areas. The first area that I talk to clients about is around optimizing the size, the weight, and the scheduling. Do I have the right size of the instance? Do I have the right type of platform service for my application? Am I actually turning my application on and off when it's not needed? The second area is how you buy from cloud service providers. And if I have predictable capacity, I can make reserve instance purchases for 1 or for 3 years and achieve some savings. If I need very flexible on-demand capacity, I buy it as I consume it. And the third area is about innovation. Optimizing the cloud means constantly scanning the capabilities and services offered by the cloud service providers and constantly scanning the services and products that are available in the cloud marketplace in each cloud service provider's console to see what is best for your environment, for your particular application, for your business problems that you need to solve. And some clients ask questions, am I using the right serverless database? Should I be using MySQL Server or should I be moving to a database as a service? Where am I using the right functions as a service instead of platform services? So these questions need to be asked in the context of constant innovation in the cloud. And monitoring this and optimizing the consumption over time is the key to unlocking the value of cloud. The important pillar in the cloud transformation is around the cloud consumption, service, and management. Buying the cloud now becomes an ongoing activity, whereas in the past, our payer and provider and other life sciences clients used to buy private clouds every 3 to 5 years. They now have to buy it every single day. That's why the conversation around optimization is so critically important. All right, I see another question around the story that I shared earlier. In your story about a platform and a patient journey, you spoke about the technology aspect of it. What about operations? That is a very good question. And there are 3 pieces to this. One is how you operate with your partners. 2 is what is the governance over your relationship with the partners in the industry and in the ecosystem, because now they're going to be consuming services and interacting with your cloud platform. And the 3rd is how your cloud operating model is going to change internally within your organization. So the first 2 pieces are addressed by, you just need to remember that you will need to be able to connect and collaborate with partners effectively. So you will need technology and services that will support that. It will require an API layer in to facilitate communication, not only with third-party partners, but also connectivity back into your traditional legacy environment in your data center. But as we think about cloud transformation, there are implications not only for technology, but also for the ways of working, right? So you can imagine that you will have to build many products on top of this cloud platform for customers to consume. So you will have to establish product groups that are aligned to each of these products and associated product teams to support them. And those teams, they will operate, or they will need to operate in an agile fashion so they can deliver these capabilities in fast sprints as you test them. But at the same time, you will also need a group of people that can manage the financials around this and ensure that consumption is contained within these products and services. And this in turn will feed into other aspects of your business, and particularly in healthcare payers, we see that the aspects of your business that are affected by this are pricing and go-to-market channel management, and how you can communicate with your patient base and members. And around governance, you need mechanisms in place where you can effectively allocate resources amongst these product groups, and a governance mechanism to manage the data in this cloud platform effectively. That's where we talk about federated governance with our clients. Federated governance is critical to this platform because you will be interacting with many groups that are both consuming those services and building products on top of that platform, as well as different services that are being delivered as part of this platform. And the only way you can manage this large platform without getting in the way of agile way of working is the federated approach to your governance.
Okay, thank you so very much for your great presentations and for sharing your thoughts and your expertise. We thank you to our audience for participating in today's webinar. This concludes today's presentation. We thank you again and enjoy the rest of your day.